I found her old wedding dress, but we've never been married before. I was packing for our move when I found a wedding dress hidden in the back of her closet, delicately preserved, wrapped in plastic, and definitely worn. But I've never married her. My name's Darren, I'm 35, and I've always been the kind of guy who likes to take things slow. Work in IT, live a simple life, and focus on building something solid. I'm not big on taking risks, never was. My relationships have always followed the same pattern, steady, comfortable, with enough space to breathe. Nothing ever felt forced or rushed, and that's exactly how I approached my relationship with Leila. Leila, 33, was different from anyone I'd ever met. She was vibrant, dynamic, and brimming with confidence, in a way that could both inspire and intimidate. She had this way of walking into a room and immediately drawing everyone's attention without trying. It wasn't just her looks, though she was stunning in her own way. It was her energy, her ability to make you feel like the most important person in the room. When we first met at a friend's BBQ, it was clear we had an immediate connection. I liked her sense of humor, her wit, and how effortlessly she navigated conversations. The chemistry was undeniable. We spent the next few months getting to know each other. Long dinners, weekend trips, and endless conversations into the early hours of the morning. She worked in marketing, and her job often had her traveling for events or client meetings, but that didn't bother me. It gave me space, and I respected her need for independence. She was a career-driven woman, always striving for something bigger. I admired that about her. It felt like we were both driven by our own ambitions, and we'd fit together seamlessly. After 2 years of dating, we moved in together. The transition was smooth. There were no major bumps in the road, just the kind of comfortable adjustment you'd expect when two people decide to share a living space. We'd spend weekends working on small projects around the house, making it our home. I never had any doubts. I trusted Leila completely. She was my partner in every sense of the word. Marriage came up occasionally. I wasn't in a rush, and neither was she. Leila had always been open about her thoughts on marriage. It wasn't that she didn't believe in it, but she wasn't desperate for a wedding. She'd been clear about that from the start. Marriage changes people, she once said, laughing softly over wine one night, and not always for the better. I didn't really mind her stance on it. She wasn't anti-marriage, but I could tell she had reservations, and I respected that. We talked about it now and then, but it was never a big deal. We were happy, or at least I thought we were. There were moments when I wondered if marriage was something we'd do one day, but I never pushed her on it. We were good. We were in love. That's all that mattered, right? The more I got to know Leila, the more I realized she was private about certain aspects of her past. She didn't talk much about her family, and when the subject of old relationships came up, she always avoided specifics. It wasn't unusual. She'd just say things like nothing worth mentioning or we don't need to talk about it. I didn't press her, and I figured if she didn't want to share, that was her business. But sometimes when I'd ask her about the past, I'd notice a certain sadness in her eyes, something fleeting that she'd quickly hide. I didn't know what it was, but it made me uneasy. Still, I let it go. She was a grown woman, and if there was something she wanted to keep buried, I respected that. We had our own life, and that was enough for me. I never thought it would come back to bite me. I never imagined that one day, everything I thought I knew about her would shatter because of something as simple as a wedding dress. The first time I thought about it, really thought about it, was when we decided to buy a house together. It was her idea, actually, a fixer-upper in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city. She was excited, talking about the potential it had, the way we could make it our own. And I was on board. I thought it was a great next step for us. We spent weekends looking at homes, and then we found it, the perfect one. The deal was done, and we were both ready for this new chapter. Or so I thought. As we started the process of moving, something started to nag at me. It was a small thing at first, a feeling I couldn't quite shake. Leila had always been the one to handle the majority of the packing, taking the lead on organizing our things. But one morning, while I was sorting through boxes in the closet, I found something that caught my attention. Something I wasn't prepared for. It started with that dress. I was clearing out the closet in our guest bedroom, mostly her stuff. Out-of-season jackets, scarves, event supplies, and a couple boxes she never unpacked. She'd always been weirdly territorial about that closet, saying she'd get around to it eventually. I didn't think much of it. But that day, I decided to dive in, figuring I'd surprise her by getting it all sorted. Tucked behind a line of coats was a large white garment bag. At first, I thought it might have been one of her old conference outfits or something fancy from her marketing events. I opened it casually, expecting sequins or a formal blazer. Instead, I saw lace, thick ivory lace, delicate embroidery, and a train that spilled out when I pulled the zipper down all the way. It wasn't just any dress. It was a wedding gown. A worn one. The bottom hem had dust on it like it had touched the ground. It smelled faintly of perfume and age, like something that had been sealed away but still remembered being worn. My heart thudded. I stood there for a full minute just staring at it, trying to make sense of it. We weren't married, we had never even been engaged, so why the hell was there a used wedding dress hiding in her closet? I zipped it back up, put it exactly where I found it, and closed the closet door. My hands were shaking. I didn't confront her right away. Honestly, I didn't know how. My brain was spinning with possibilities. Maybe it was for a photo shoot. Maybe it belonged to someone else and she was holding on to it, but no name or label was anywhere to be found. No receipt, no dry cleaning tag, nothing. That night, I tried to act normal, but I watched her more closely. We were sitting on the couch eating takeout and watching some mindless reality show. She laughed at something on screen, tossed a bit of rice at me with her chopsticks, and leaned into my shoulder. For a moment, it was like nothing had changed, but everything had. Trying to be subtle, I asked, "Hey, did you ever go to any weddings where you had to dress up like a bride? Like maybe for fun or something?" She gave me a puzzled look. "What?" "You know, like a themed bachelorette or something. I found this old wedding dress in the closet. Thought it might have been from one of your friend's parties." Her reaction was quick, too quick. "Oh yeah, that must be from... God, that was forever ago. My cousin Amanda. She stayed with me for a while after her divorce. Probably left it behind." I nodded slowly. "I've met Leila's family. Multiple dinners, multiple holidays. She doesn't have a cousin named Amanda. Still, I didn't challenge her on it, not yet." I waited until she left for a hair appointment the next afternoon and went back into the closet. I pulled the dress out again and searched every inch of the garment bag. Inside the inner lining of the bag was a folded piece of paper tucked into a side pocket. It was a wedding program. Leila Harris and Brandon Cole. August 12th, 2017. It was elegantly designed, cream-colored cardstock, a list of vows, a short note from the bride and groom thanking guests for attending. Her name, printed in cursive, stared back at me. I felt like the air got punched out of my lungs. Leila Harris, her maiden name, the same person lying next to me each night, and yet a complete stranger. She'd been married, not engaged, not in a long-term relationship, not something not worth mentioning. A full-on wedding. And I'd never heard a single word about it. I sat down on the edge of the bed, wedding program in one hand, my phone in the other. I opened her contact profile and stared at her picture. Who was this woman? My Leila didn't lie. My Leila didn't keep major secrets, except she had. That night, I didn't sleep. I waited in the dark, listening to her steady breathing and feeling the icy distance grow between us with every breath. The trust I thought we had was starting to rot from the inside, and I knew, the moment I closed my eyes, I wouldn't be able to pretend anymore. The next morning, I didn't go into work. I told Leila I had a stomach bug, something vague enough that she wouldn't push too hard. She left for the office without much fanfare, kissed me on the forehead like always, and went about her day like everything was normal. I sat in the kitchen for an hour afterward, sipping cold coffee, staring at that wedding program like it might give me more answers if I just looked hard enough. I didn't recognize the groom's name, Brandon Cole. I looked him up online. It didn't take long. There he was, smiling in a real estate agent profile photo, married, not to Leila anymore, obviously. His social media said he'd been remarried for 2 years. He looked average, not threatening, just a guy. But the part that wrecked me wasn't him. It was seeing photos from their wedding, public ones. Leila in that same dress I found in our closet, standing in front of a lake, flowers in her hair, smiling like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Her hand in his, her eyes lit up in ways I hadn't seen in a long time, and I hadn't even known that version of her existed. I scrolled through old posts. She'd wiped every trace of that life from her current profiles, but there were still ghosts on other people's pages, a few tagged shots, comments from friends. One even called her Mrs. Cole. She'd hearted it. I felt sick. I didn't confront her that night or the next. I needed time to think, to decide if this was a betrayal or just a hidden scar she hadn't wanted to show me. I tried to justify it. People have pasts, painful ones. Maybe she thought if she buried it deep enough, it wouldn't bleed into our life. But then I started noticing other things. Photos that used to be on her old hard drive, gone. No albums from before 2018. I asked casually once if she had old vacation pics from before we met, and she brushed it off. Lost in a phone crash, she said. Now, I wondered if that was another lie. Finally, 4 days later, I couldn't take it anymore. We were on the couch again, her head on my lap, watching something forgettable. I muted the TV. Leila, I know you were married. She went stiff. Didn't move, didn't speak. Her breath caught for just a second, but I felt it. I found the program. I saw the dress. I saw the photos. She sat up slowly, her face drained of color. Her mouth opened like she was going to deny it, but then she just stopped and whispered, I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. The room was silent for what felt like a full minute after she said it. I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. I didn't yell. I didn't ask why right away. I just stared at her. I think a part of me expected her to spin a story, justify it, soften the blow. But she didn't. She just looked down at her hands, fingers twisting nervously. How long were you married? I asked. 3 years, she said softly. We were together for 6. 6 years, Leila. And you never mentioned him? Not even once, she shook her head. Because it wasn't something I wanted to carry into this life. Her voice cracked at the end of that sentence, but I didn't care. Not then. I don't get it, I said, sharper now. You've talked about exes, you've made jokes about bad dates, but a whole marriage, you erased it like it never happened. I didn't erase it, she said quickly. I buried it. That's different. I got up and walked into the kitchen. I needed distance. I heard her following, but she kept a few feet behind. You lied by omission, I said, not even looking at her. That's still a lie. Do you really think I wanted to hide it to hurt you? She asked, her voice rising. It wasn't about you, Darren. It was about me trying to start over. I hated who I was in that marriage. I hated what I let him turn me into. Then why keep the dress? Silence. Her face contorted. Guilt, shame, something heavier. I don't know, she whispered. Maybe a part of me didn't want to let go completely. Or maybe I needed proof that I survived it. Those words hit harder than I expected. Survived. She nodded. Brandon, he wasn't a monster, but he broke me in quiet ways, manipulation, control, gaslighting. I lost myself with him. I didn't want to talk about it because every time I remembered, I felt like I was slipping back into that version of me. So I decided to pretend it didn't exist. I was quiet for a long time after that. Later that week, I confided in my best friend, Adam. He listened, then asked bluntly, "Do you think you still trust her?" I didn't know how to answer. My sister, Emma, was harsher. She hid a marriage. That's not a little thing. What else is she hiding? Most of our mutual friends were stunned. A few tried to play devil's advocate. People bury trauma. Differently, one of them said. It doesn't mean she doesn't love you. Maybe, but I didn't feel loved. I felt deceived. Leila tried. She gave me space, but she also left notes on the counter, texted me while I was out, cooked my favorite meals, apologized without making excuses. But every moment with her felt like I was in a room with someone I didn't fully know anymore. And the worst part? She had never looked more real to me than she did now. 2 weeks after the truth came out, I packed a small duffel bag and told Leila I was going to stay at a friend's place for a while. She didn't beg me to stay. She didn't cry. She just stood in the doorway, arms crossed tightly, and said, "Okay." That hurt more than if, she'd screamed. I needed space, not just to process the lie, but to think about what trust actually meant to me. I always believed love could weather anything, if the foundation was solid. But now I wasn't sure. How do you rebuild when you realize your partner's past has entire chapters you were never allowed to read? During my time away, I kept to myself. I didn't block her. We texted occasionally, but I didn't come back home. She respected that, never pushed. Just short, careful messages. One day, I came back to grab some things while she was at work. On the bed, I found an envelope with my name on it. Inside was a handwritten letter, 5 pages long. No excuses. Just the raw, ugly version of her past. The breakdown of her marriage to Brandon, how he'd chipped away at her until she didn't recognize herself, how the divorce left her feeling like damaged goods, and how when she met me she couldn't believe someone could love her without first knowing the baggage. "I wanted to be the Leila you met at the barbecue," she wrote. "Not the version of me who spent years walking on eggshells." At the bottom of the letter was one sentence that stuck with me. "You deserve the whole truth, even if it costs me everything." That line stayed in my head for days. I didn't move back in right away, but I didn't walk away completely either. We started seeing a couples therapist. I wanted answers, but I also wanted to see if she was willing to go deeper, not just to keep me, but to finally confront the things she'd buried for so long. To her credit, she showed up, every session, every hard conversation. It wasn't about the dress anymore. It wasn't even about Brandon. It was about the way silence can grow like mold in a relationship, slowly suffocating what seemed healthy on the surface. 6 months later, I moved back home. We're not married, and maybe we never will be. But we're honest now, brutally, painfully honest. Some nights that's harder than others, but at least I know who I'm sleeping beside. Do I trust her completely? No. But I trust her enough to keep trying. And maybe that's the most real kind of love there is, the kind that stays, not because it's easy, but because both people are willing to face the darkest parts of themselves for each other.